Hi everyone! I've watched a lot of these opinion videos and they can be pretty repetitive sometimes, so I'm going to try to share some opinions that you hopefully haven't seen a bunch of times already. Of course, these are just my personal opinions and I mean no offense to any fans or groups in this video. Let's get started. Almost every opinion video says that Signal is Twice's worst title track. Personally, I really like it and I prefer it over some songs like TT and Heartshaker. I just like the concept of the video and the choreography a lot more. There aren't any requirements to liking a genre of music. For example, a lot of people who don't speak English only listen to one or two English-speaking singers. Would you tell them that it means they don't like American pop? No, it just doesn't really make any sense to me. A lot of fans get defensive and protective about this, and I don't really understand why. Saying you like a genre of music doesn't mean you have to know a lot of groups, it just means that you enjoy the general sound of the music. A lot of people disliked it, but I personally liked Zimzalabim immediately. I think that it suits Red Velvet really well, and some of the stage outfits were some of my favorites Red Velvet have ever had, even though most of them were a little bit strange. I see a lot of people say that they don't stan NCT because their concept is too complicated, or that they should stop adding members and units because it makes them unmotivated to listen to their music. This doesn't really make sense to me because if you can stan 10 different groups and learn all the names and songs, you can probably learn the names of the members and units of NCT as well. All you really need to know about them is that there's no limits and that SM can basically form whatever groups with whatever members they want to. That's kind of all there is to it. When TXT debuted, a majority of the fans were ARMYs, and I agree that they benefited a lot from being in the same label as BTS. However, I think with each comeback, ARMY stopped streaming and giving TXT attention, and they're now slowly starting to build their own fandom outside of people who stan BTS. I still listen to their music personally because I like it, and I'm seeing more people acknowledge them for their music as well. A lot of people said Birthday was a flop because it didn't break any records or get music show wins, but I personally think it was a bop and it really suits Somi's voice. It's a combination of her personality and the influence the Black label has had on her style. She also wrote the B-side for her album, Out of My Head, which is a really good song that I recommend as well. Not every song a group releases is going to appeal to everyone in the audience. The beat drop is just the trend at the moment, and I personally think it can be really fun, especially if the dance break is choreographed really well. I agree that it can get a bit boring if all a group releases are strong songs with wordless choruses, but I think it's a little unfair to judge a group like that without listening to their B-sides as well. I never really see people talk about Rocky, but I'm really impressed whenever I watch him perform. There's just something about his stage presence and expressions that makes his dancing really enjoyable to me. He also has a hand in choreographing Astro's dances, and you can just see how passionate he is about dance in general. People usually talk about dances from bigger companies, and I feel like we don't really appreciate Rocky's dancing that much. Some groups don't have very strong rappers, and the raps in the songs are unnecessary. Personally, I don't think that any of Red Velvet are particularly impressive rappers, and they all have strong enough vocals to go a whole song without raps. I don't dislike the rap parts of their songs, but it does feel a little forced sometimes. Some groups are really large and still only have 2 rappers, such as the Boys, who have 2 rappers and 11 members. This works well because then the members who are actually good at rapping and are passionate about it get to do it. Every fandom has toxic people in it. ARMY are a really big fandom, so obviously they do have a lot of toxic people, but I find it irritating when people think they're better than others just because they aren't in a certain fandom and look down on them. You can only really speak for yourself and your own behavior online, so I think people shouldn't feel superior to a specific fandom. I personally think that is actually quite a toxic mindset in itself. Don't get me wrong, I really like NCT's music and I follow their comebacks closely because I usually enjoy their title tracks. I just felt really underwhelmed by Raiden and NCT 127's releases so far. I did like Punch, but it wasn't my favorite title track by NCT 127. I also always find myself skipping Ride In and Kick It when they come up in my playlist. All of NCT's comebacks so far and all the units have had a similar musical style and concept, and I just didn't really find them that interesting. I almost always like Blackpink's title tracks more than the B-sides because they're usually very well produced. I was obsessed with Kill This Love when it first came out, but now it's gotten kind of old and I don't really enjoy listening to it anymore. All of the B-sides on the album are still really good and nice to listen to, but I think Kill This Love aged the worst out of all of Blackpink's songs. Whistle and Playing With Fire are their oldest title tracks and they're still amazing to this day. As someone who's bilingual, I know that English slang is used in a variety of languages. I don't really find it cringy or annoying because it usually just helps with the general flow of the song and doesn't really add or subtract anything from the lyrics. Being a trainee at a company is already like a survival show as it is. They are already competing against their friends to make debut. Whether or not it is publicized most likely would not have made much of a difference to the final lineup. Survival shows can ensure that a group has a fan base when they debut, and some idols would never have ended up in certain groups without a survival show. However, I agree that some shows can be cruel, especially when trainees are constantly put in the debut group and removed from the debut group every episode. Fandoms are always trying to outdo each other and have the most views in 24 hours, even before hearing the song in the first place. This means that music video views aren't a reflection of how good a song is, but how large and active a fandom is during a comeback. That's why I think all the different records that are constantly being broken don't really mean anything. Instead, I think that album sales and music platform streams mean more because it shows how many people actually enjoy the music instead of reaching an arbitrary number or record.